Greetings from Las Vegas, Nevada. Day number 2 here. I have some good news. If you were following yesterday's podcast to the very end, and also I tried to do this last week when I was in Vegas and it was not successful, but it was successful this time, that I was able to actually raise, I didn't quite get the 5,000 US that I needed, but it's pretty close. So I did raise enough money to buy a Leica Q-P, but the complication is that it's my personal money, technically, that I won, whereas my business is an incorporation, so it kind of has its own standalone bank account, and it feels a little bit weird to spend personal money on something that's technically a business expense. I'm actually going to get more into this in a future podcast. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the benefits of incorporating your photography business. So if you're going into like year 2 or 3, especially if you're full-time, please look into whatever country you're in, look into the benefits of incorporating. The best part, I guess, is 1, like tax benefits, 2, that it kind of encapsulates your liability so that your liability does not go outside of the business. So if something were to happen. And then the other thing is just, I'm going to rehash point number 1, the tax benefits are quite good. It also forces you to structure your business a little bit differently. So the thing that I found maybe even the most helpful about incorporating my business was the fact that when I was just like kind of making everything as a sole proprietor business, it was all just kind of like going into one big bank account, and I didn't really have any like personal structure for it. And when I went incorporated, now I pay myself, so I get a paycheck every Friday from Taylor Jackson Media, and I think that is something that has helped me at least like kind of mentally separate my personal expenses from business, rather than just living in like business world all the time. This has also kind of helped me prepare a little bit better for my retirement and made things a little less complex when it comes to taxes at the end of the year. The amped up complication with tax, if you do go incorporated, you have to find somebody that can actually handle that level of taxes. But the good thing is that they're probably going to be a trained professional, and they're probably going to be pretty good at it, and they're going to tell you exactly what you can do to kind of maximize your revenue and how you can keep the most of your money and not just give it to the government. So those are my thoughts on that. Future podcast eventually coming. The challenge for me that I have to figure out before I actually do that podcast is essentially I'm a Canadian incorporation. And if you're a US corporation or Australian or UK or wherever else in the world you might be, it's going to be a lot different. So I will be able to speak generally to it, but I won't be able to give you specifics that you'll have to go out and find those. But I will say if you're generating revenue in your business right now, go out and look at the possibility of incorporating. Maybe you do that now, maybe you do that. I guess like the end of the year is coming up. So if you want kind of that clean exit on like January 1st from a sole proprietor to an incorporation, maybe look into doing that. I think that even if you just take this single piece of advice from this podcast, I feel like it will change your life for the better. So today, what I want to talk about is something that leapfrogs off of yesterday's content. So yesterday's content was about travel hacking, doing unique and interesting things at a reduced rate, or just kind of amplifying the uniqueness to your interesting things and coming up with cool ideas. Today, I want to talk specifically about flying first class and how you kind of put yourself in a position to always fly first class, or nearly always. I would say that like 90% of my flights are usually first class now, and they don't cost me any money for the most part. So talking a little bit about that today. So number 1, as I talked about yesterday, Aeroplan miles, like Sky Miles, whatever miles you're collecting, they are incredibly helpful. So basically the way that it goes is that if you want to purchase a first class ticket, say from like Las Vegas to Toronto, and you want to buy that first class ticket, it's probably going to be very expensive. The one way that you can get that first class ticket for a lot less money, or for free even, is again by having lots of options and different ways that you can go about this. So for myself specifically in Canada, I have the ability to, if I have my points, I can book a basic fare ticket. So whatever the, maybe not the cheapest ticket is, but if you purchase the correct ticket class, which all airlines are different, you can upgrade different ticket classes based on different things, which is very confusing. So you book a basic ticket, and then I'm able to use my miles to upgrade that flight. So that's one of the ways to do it. The other way is that it's actually, I guess it's kind of supply and demand. The fact that the Aeroplan specifically, and a lot of other companies, they all buy seats on airplanes. and they buy business class seats as well as economy seats. And not a lot of people, when they're flying on points, are flying or looking even at the business class flights. So you will find that a lot of them, one, that they're like available even very last minute notice, and two, the fact that they're like actually really reasonably priced, that it's way easier and way more cost effective, like even when you kind of put in the market fair value to do this by points to fly first class than it is to actually spend the money on the ticket. There's another way as well that is slowly kind of creeping up that I've been super successful at a few times now. I feel like it's still in its infancy stage, and over the next couple of years, it's going to better reflect the actual value of a first class ticket. But every now and then, depending on which airline you book through, you'll get an offer, like an email that'll come in like usually a week or two before the flight, and it'll say to bid on an upgrade. So what I do is you can kind of play this two ways. The way that I've played it and been very successful is essentially when you click on the email, it will come up with like a sliding scale, and it'll be, depending on the flight, it'll be like, maybe it'll start at $250 and it'll go up to $1,000 or wherever you want to bid. I have just been bidding at the very, very bare minimum, and I've been successful a lot of times. If I really want that upgrade, I'll change it up a little bit. My strategy is kind of to go with the weird numbers that I would suspect most people are like, oh, I'll spend like $500 on this upgrade or to bid on this upgrade. And then if I come in at 505 or 507 or something weird, I'm going to win that over that other person and not really spend that much more money. The last way, and maybe the most effective way long-term to actually get free first-class upgrades, is to focus on building status with a specific airline. For me, it's Air Canada, and it's, I would say, one of the better programs to build status with. There's a lot of complexities when it comes to the way miles programs work. So for Air Canada specifically, if you're making you're generating Aeroplan miles, those aren't actually status miles. They have a thing called altitude status miles. It is like, seriously, like every program they make it, I think, as confusing as possible so that they're able to kind of like bend the rules in their favor whenever they need to. But Air Canada is pretty good. And if you start generating and you understand how to generate the specific status miles that go into making you like a 50K or 100K, or if you're on United, it's like 1K, all those different things basically mean that you're going to get free upgrades from time to time. Some airlines like American will actually upgrade you based on just like if there's first class seats available and you are of status or you're the most status person on the aircraft, you will get upgraded to that. In my experience with Air Canada, they will let those seats fly empty before giving you a free upgrade, with the exception if you're booked on a flight that is oversold or it is sold out and people are like trying to like, if the gate staff is essentially trying to like accommodate families and get everybody in a row together, and you're a single, or even if it's happened to Lindsay and I before, if you're just two people, sometimes they just bump you to first class. I've never really found it true. There's a lot of like different ways to get like to score free first class upgrades by like wearing suits to airports and stuff like that, or even just talking to the gate staff and being like really nice. I have never found that experience to work that well. What I have found is just like if they screw up and they oversell it, they got to move somebody up. And if you are the number one person with status, even if you really realistically have no status, you haven't flown 100,000 miles with an airline before, but you at least have that Aeroplan number or that miles number with them, there's a pretty good chance that they are going to look more favorably upon your account. This also goes to benefit the fact that if they are oversold and they're looking for people to kick off the plane, if you have status, there's a pretty good chance that they're not going to cancel you out of the flight because you have a little bit of a history with the airline provider. So my advice would be figure out whoever flies the most from your local airport, whoever takes you the most places. I don't love really companies I don't build a lot of status with like Southwest or any of, I guess, like the more quote unquote budget airlines that tend to fly a lot more places, only because I like to do a lot of international travel. And also Southwest doesn't really have a first class cabin. So by building miles towards them, it's fine, but there's a lot more upside if you're building miles on United or in Air Canada or American Airlines. The last thing to kind of understand as well is kind of the density of the alliance within your area. So up in Canada, we have a very strong Star Alliance, so it involves Air Canada and United and a bunch of other carriers as well. And there is a lot of planes at Toronto Pearson that are Star Alliance planes. I've been to other airports in the world that there's just a lot more SkyTeam or whatever the other whatever the groups are. But for the most part, like for Toronto, it made sense for me to go with a Star Alliance plane because of Air Canada and all the other carriers that I would fly, like Continental, I guess, that kind of got eaten by United and became one. But your status will carry through with all of those other airlines. So if I am Star Alliance Gold on Air Canada, I'm Star Alliance Gold on United, which means that I get to board earlier and there's a better chance that I'm going to be upgraded. I can also use my upgrade points or at least my Aeroplan miles to upgrade my United tickets, assuming that I purchase the correct ticket class. Also, if you are on the website for your actual airline, there's usually a checkbox that says like something like only show tickets that are upgradable. Because sometimes ticket classes will be limited. Like if you get like the X class ticket that's like $50 from like JFK to Las Vegas or whatever, that they're not going to let you upgrade that ticket because it's just like there's no money in it really for them. They're just like kind of paying for like essentially to carry your weight and not really making a whole lot of profit on it. So they will force you into booking higher class tickets as well. This happens to like if you actually want to get your 100% status miles, you do have to book certain ticket classes depending on the airline. The other kind of hack, I guess, is that if you really do want to build a lot of status very quickly with an airline, a lot of them, if you actually purchase a first class ticket, will give you like 1.5 miles per every actual mile that you're on the plane for. And I found that this is really, really effective with longer flights. I'm always just very conscious. I know that a lot of us, when we're booking flights, you're just like looking on like that left-hand side, like whatever the cheapest is and the shortest distance. But sometimes you will be surprised that like as you scroll over that a business class ticket, maybe it's like $600, whereas it's like $400 to fly, not first class. So that $200 that you spend, if it's on a long flight, will actually like give you a lot more status miles that will get you closer to free upgrades in the future. So it's a long game, and it's a game that I guess you only really play if you know that a lot of travel is in your future, that you want to do these things. But it's definitely a path worth going down. All right, that is all for today. If you're a member over at Patreon, I've uploaded my a good video for you today this morning, so go check that out. If you're not a member, consider joining. Again, the separation of content is kind of that I will talk about like kind of general things, cameras, like actual shooting, and some light photography, I guess, like business things on the podcast here. But then the full like in-depth things that will actually book you money or book you weddings that'll generate you money are in Patreon. So if you're a member over there, pretty much the consensus is that it's now $20 a month, but it's the best $20 a month that a lot of people are spending on wedding photography education. So there's a ton of content. My contracts in there, like pricing documents, pricing, like full walkthrough videos, as well as contracts videos as well, and all kinds of stuff. So come on over there if you're interested and support me, I guess, making this podcast as well, because that's the reason like that I'm able to create all this content is because of Patreon. It kind of gives me, I guess, like a monthly paycheck, which is amazing, which means that I can focus a little bit more on creating video content and getting this style of content out there to you guys so that you're able to learn more and hopefully accelerate the growth of your business and start making more money. And hopefully you're going full-time. If you're not already full-time, if you're already full-time, that's awesome. Go incorporated. And if you're not yet full-time, maybe wait to go incorporated, but do that at some point in your future. So thanks so much for listening today. I'm Taylor Jackson, and I will see you tomorrow from back home in Toronto, Canada. It's not really where I live. I live like an hour west. It's just whenever you're traveling and people ask you where you're from, you just always say Toronto. See you then.